Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fandomnation, episode 2 of our rebranding. We're supposed to be joined by Matt here tonight as well, but he's having issues getting in. And Matt, if you're listening, I can't reply via Messenger right now, so I don't really know what else to help you with. Maybe message Johnny or Randy, and they might be able to guide you through whatever your issue is that's going on. But it's still very much in the beta aspect of the restream which we're using now. But yeah, milking the Scream franchise. No, milking the Scream franchise would mean that would be the headline of the title, and Ghostface would be the main thing in the thumbnail. But it is what it is, I suppose. I'm excited for another Scream movie. Um, Joining me as always, the captain, the governor, if you will, my longtime partner, Johnny V. What's going on, buddy?
Oh man, I'm good. I just finished a 2 hour stream over on Twitch. Came right over here, so I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I intended to tune in, and then you told me what you were streaming, and I'm like, yeah, my kid's never going to get to bed if I let him watch that. So that was a no go. Also joining us tonight, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of Star Wars to talk about later on. Obviously, a very chaotic and hectic day with the Star Wars fandom. Randy, excited to dive into it all with you tonight, man.
Yeah, it's I know we had just a bunch of other stuff ready to go, and then we got the nice little potential bombshell dropped on us earlier. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, always as always, if you're new to the channel, please take a moment to subscribe to keep up with all of our content. Fandom Nation is the rebranding from Fandom Empire. I don't want to spend too much time on this, so I'll recap it briefly. The same parties that were involved with Fandom Empire aren't necessarily involved with this, although I had a great conversation with Mike Bish today, and he's going to be guest hosting here in a few weeks, whether there's something news relevant or not. Tommy B's still around. Just we usually do this up past his bedtime, which makes it hard. And we like to lead off with horror. And not that Tommy isn't opposed to talking Halloween. I think his wheelhouse is Marvel and Star Wars, and we'll eventually get him back on here doing his thing as well. This thing is being so screwy yet again. Big shock. But we're here today, and I'm excited to get into the topics that we have, and we have a lot that we're going to discuss tonight. I'll recap a little bit of it. Halloween creatively bankrupt? Question mark. We're going to talk about unfortunately, the latest rumors from a fairly reliable source um, about Halloween, and I can't say I'm pleased. We're going to talk about what we want out of the Crystal Lake series. There's some Scream 7 leaks, not just pictures, but footage. I'm going to talk a little Avengers. I'm going to give my review of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man from Disney Plus. Pirate 6 is in the works, and we'll talk about who may be coming back for that. Star Wars and Lucasfilm likely to get a new president here, as reports are out there that Kathleen Kennedy is finally stepping down. Andor dropped a surprise trailer on us yesterday that we will talk about, even though I don't have a image ready for that one. Revenge of the Sith is re-releasing, which we'll do some event up here in Canada for. It's going to be a tough, busy weekend to do it, but um, really excited for that. It's my second favorite Star Wars movie, and probably my tied for my favorite theatrical experience ever with Halloween 2018. We are also going to give our Elimination Chamber predictions to end the show, and then tonight only time we're going to do this, if you were in the live chat at the end of the show, we're going to give away the Patreon link completely free for tonight with our new Patreon after show that launches tonight called Late Night with Fandom. And we're going to be talking AEW Revolution. We're going to get into some of the things that Jamie Lee Curtis said, that's not going to work for me, brother, for with Halloween Ends, and some of the other things that will come up today. Punisher news, too, by the way. Some intriguing Punisher news that might change some of the things that we're going to be getting on Disney Plus. So you can catch that on the after show, which will go for about 30 minutes after this. Without further ado, though, unless you fellas have something you want to address, I'm ready to get into it.
Well, I'm just going to jump into that question on chat from Ernie. What do I stream over on Twitch? A little bit of everything. Variety streams. Tonight was Minecraft. Next week, WWE 2K25 hits. And we got MLB later in the month. So a little bit of everything. It's whatever games I'm in the mood for. Mostly you'll see an emphasis on sort of like survival craft games. Minecraft, 7 Days to Die, Valheim, that kind of stuff. And then whatever else I'm playing at the time. And sports games.
What's going on, Kenny? Long time no see, buddy. Long time viewer of content that Johnny and I have put out. He's been following our content since 2015 across many different platforms, many different names, many different shows, and have nothing but love for Kenny. What's going on, Byron? How you doing, buddy? Always welcome here, man. We're not going to ignore you. Yeah, Ernie, Johnny does a good job with Twitch. He needs to do it more. I know Johnny's waiting passionately for Andor the game, counting down the days. There's not actually an Andor the game coming out, so please, nobody think we're being for real about that. Let's dive into it, though. And I have some things to say. So, this came out from Cinestealth, and there's a couple of things I want to point out today. Is we had some very notable, reputable Hollywood insiders that work for the major trades come out today in terms of Star Wars and basically downplay reports that come out of anywhere smaller. Well, not only have we been right a lot with our Halloween content, places like Making Star Wars, Bespin Bulletin, Jeff Snyder, the Insnider, great newsletter, by the way. Those guys don't get the credit they deserve. And with the Star Wars franchise specifically, are far more often right than they're wrong. But the insiders and the clout chasers love to downplay the little guy. And so I've already seen, well, this came from an X account that only has, 6 or 7,000 followers, whatever it is. Well, if you've paid attention to that X account, Cinestealth to be correct, over the last year or so, they've gotten a ton right. Will they ever get credit for it? No, not in the way today's industry works. But that's why I think there's a lot of stock to be put into this. The first hint of Jamie Lee Curtis being potentially involved in yet another Halloween project was when she did an interview towards the end of last year and said, never say never about returning. And when she did that, I reached out to a source we use on the channel and have used for years and said, this is bullshit, right? And that person basically told me not to write it off. I was pretty pissed off. But that didn't mean anything because that person didn't even know. They were just saying, don't write it off with the way this franchise makes certain decisions. And then Cinestealth comes out with she's had conversations about returning and not in the executive producer role that we've speculated she might get involved with behind the scenes, which I didn't even want that, frankly. But rather an on-screen role as the character of Laurie Strode once again. So if you are writing this off because it sounds ludicrous, I'll say this. I get it. You should be right to write it off. Unfortunately, you're not. And it sounds like those conversations have in fact happened. And I really don't fucking get it. Like, as the headline says, as the title of our video says tonight, Halloween creatively bankrupt. If you go down this route again, if you are too afraid to take the franchise in a new direction, and I'm not talking a direction that doesn't have Michael Myers, because he's your real cash cow. when Jamie Lee Curtis had nothing to do with the franchise for 2 decades. Michael should still be there. The shape should still be there. But what more can you do with Jamie Lee Curtis? And I'm sure you can come up with a story, but the idea that they're going to fucking potentially go back down this road drives me nuts. It makes a headline like Halloween creatively bankrupt perfectly acceptable in my eyes. Because the franchise doesn't have to be creatively bankrupt, but they sure seem like they're leaning that way. And if they go this way, I don't think they're doing it from a creative standpoint at all. They're doing it for money. That simple. Money, namesake, having her attached. There's 1,000 different things you could do story wise rather than go back to Jamie Lee Curtis again. I'm not saying she's not a good actress. She's an she's an Academy Award winning actress, right? Like, she's a fantastic actress. And honestly, her acting in all 3 of the last movies is really, really good. But does that make this the right call? No fucking way. I'm sorry. Like, move on. Do something else. I was watching Drum Dum's video earlier today while doing some research on this, and like he threw out a couple of possibilities that I'll probably save for next week's show. And while I'll even admit, like, ah, son of a bitch, Lee, you made me consider it. Um, at the end of the day, it's still like, no. Like, if you go this route, whatever you do next that doesn't have her now becomes even more hard to do. It becomes harder to reset and restart. Like, the fact that we're even talking about Jamie Lee Curtis being in active discussions once again to return, nothing's guaranteed, but the fact that those conversations have happened makes me want to drive my head off of a table. Like, it's embarrassing. I hate it for Halloween fans. There's going to be some people that are thrilled about this, and I don't get it. They're probably the same people that just want Michael Myers to stalk people again for an entire movie and don't want anything new or exciting to come out narratively about it. Um, and, if that's what you want, great. But, Johnny, I'm going to go to you first, man. You were a big part of our kills and a lesser extent our ends coverage. Um, you know, just how do you feel about now this being a very real possibility, knowing active discussions are, at least if they're not actively going on now, they happened.
I, it's tough, and I've said this in the past. It's an unfortunate reality of the Halloween franchise that there is only one character outside of Michael Myers that has any sort of, bankable value. Um, and that's obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. And
There's two, but they seem scared shitless to go with the other one.
I mean, I'd say the other one, with Donald Pleasance being gone, isn't quite so much there. But, it's tough in that, as great as we love Michael and as important as Michael is to the franchise, his name on the billboard and on the marquee isn't going to push people. Person X under the mask isn't, going to move the needle. It's the cast surrounding Michael that's important. And obviously Jamie is very bankable, there's no way to deny that. Um, and if you could, get her back without all of the uh, excess baggage that accompanies that, I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with that. It's all of the excess baggage that becomes problematic. And, having her character in the story in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you do it well and you do it right. I don't think that if you're coming back, and even if she's coming back, you can't have Lori be the focus. You can't. That time has passed. Now, if you're going to put her in sort of a, secondary, tertiary, almost sort of transitioning her into sort of a, Loomis-esque place, and obviously not the same, but sort of similar in that, additional person in the story could make sense. However, this last trilogy ruined most of the goodwill Jamie has with, the people who care about the story. And that's the problem. It on its face, it's, as long as Jamie Lee Curtis is willing, as long as Laurie Strode stays alive, they're going to keep going back to that well because it makes sense, from a financial standpoint. That's one thing that the franchise still does, is make money. You can do it for low budgets. Now, it's a bit harder to sort of compare, the last two, what with being made in an entirely different period of time, right? Post-COVID Hollywood is very different than pre-COVID Hollywood from a financial standpoint. So it's, I don't know. Am I excited at the prospect? Not on its face. You would have to do something genuinely original for me to get excited about it, and can they do that? Absolutely they can, because, as I said, going into the last trilogy, we've talked about it before, you and I have talked about it in the past, that, when they announced the crew, the cast, and all that, I was not interested in Halloween 2018, not at all, because of who was doing it. I expected it to be garbage and crap. Now, obviously I was proven wrong, and they did bust out a very good Halloween movie. So, I hope that's sort of the case here, that, we get something different, we get something original that isn't just reusing the same old that we've come to expect, and keep the commentary to the Haddonfield, I guess, and not worry about the rest of the world as far as the commentary goes, and just make it simple. I say it a lot, keep it simple, stupid. That's what you need to do. You need to go back to the basics, tell a good story. And if that story includes Jamie Lee as Laurie, it needs to push the story forward more than just, here's Jamie Lee Curtis. There needs to be a reason for it. It needs to move the story forward, and it needs to be good. Like, that's the important thing. It needs to be good. At the end of the day, that's all that matters to me. Is it good, and did I enjoy it? If Jamie Lee is a part of that, I'm not writing it off out of hand based on her presence, but they have a long way to go for me to say this was worth it, this was good, and I enjoyed it. Can they get there? Absolutely. Will they? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine.
Let's be real here, though, for a second. I'm going to get Randy in here, too. But even with Jamie Lee Curtis, it is diminishing returns.
Absolutely.
You're not talking a 10-year break in between movies, even if it ends up being a TV series first, which I think now you can officially say is in question. It's going to be diminishing returns. And that's why, to me, there's no point in doing it. You're going to make a little bit more with Jamie Lee Curtis attached for sure. I would never debate that. But do you want to go back to what you just dealt with? Do you want to have whoever the creatives are involved, setting up the storyline, and, Jamie Lee Curtis getting to set and pulling the Hulk Hogan, that's not going to work for me, brother? Because that happened. That happened on Halloween Ends. Even when we said it was happening and a bunch of people told us we were full of shit, it took Jamie Lee Curtis herself coming out and saying, yeah, I squashed that creative. And we're going to talk about what some of those things were in our Patreon after show tonight, which, again, if you're in the live chat at the end of the show, we will provide you with the link And one time only, as we relaunch our Patreon program, we will provide that show for free for everybody, late night with fandom. So stay tuned for that. Um, you know, I want to save what some of the creative options could be for next week's show, because I think there's a couple of possibilities that even make me go, well, if they did do this, it's not like I'm not going to watch, but I'm probably going to be highly critical of certain things. So, um, yeah, it is what it is. Randy, your thoughts on them potentially going back to Jamie Lee Curtis in an on-screen role?
See, at this point, I believe if you're going to bring her back, it doesn't need to be a major role. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. I feel like a lot of the stories we've pitched, like over the months, over the past year, whether it's movie or the TV series, I think they could work her into that in a way. If they went with any of those ideas, obviously they'll probably have their own, uh, hopefully not horrible story. But I feel like at this point, for her character, she is best served as more of a back half, like mentor type, where the main cast is trying to be like, oh wow, someone survived all this, let's go to the source or something. We don't need a full movie with her in it. We don't need anything that's gonna basically give her the option to veto a ton of stuff. But let's, give her. And it doesn't even have to be a send off. It can be just something simple, and you can still have her name on the marquee where there's like she is in it. I mean, look what J.J. Abrams did with Mark Hamill in The Force Awakens. The very end of the movie. So it's not impossible to get fans excited about a character showing up and then be like, oh, by the way, they're in it for 5 minutes right here. Ultimately, at this point, if we're going to be very serious about the creative process here, we need something different. There's nothing saying that Michael Myers won't be in it. There's nothing saying that we don't have a form of Laurie Strode in it, but it needs to be something that separates itself from from a reboot to a reimagining to resetting the timeline. We need something that is going to bring new characters to the forefront, that they build up and develop, and that ultimately, yes, you could have Jamie Lee Curtis kind of give them a little help in a section of the movie, and that'll be it. But ultimately, I don't need to see her in the entire movie. I don't need to see, obviously she'll be in the background wanting, producer credits and things of that nature, which that's probably what's going to happen anyway. But in all seriousness, it's time. It's time to move on. It's time to move on from Laurie Strode. We need somebody new. We need somebody fresh. We need somebody that we can get attached to, that can grow with us, especially if they decide to move forward with more than a series or a movie or whatever their plans are. And the only way to do that is to kind of minimalize the use of Laurie Strode and really put the focus on someone else or a group of someone else's. And I think, that would be the smartest thing for them to do. But we all know that in the end, it's all about money, and they're going to go with what makes them money. And that's really a shame, especially for hardcore fans who know there are plenty of stories that they could tell that would be just as exciting, just as enthralling without Laurie Strode.
I think you hit the nail on the head, man. And I want to point an example out of a franchise that, although they're now going backwards with who they've brought into the seventh movie, and it's just my opinion. But when you look at Scream 6 and what that movie was able to do between the tone and the feel, and despite it having a really over the top, goofy last act, for me, it's the second or third best Scream movie ever. And there's no Nev Campbell, right? And there's no David, help me out here. David, I'm screwing it up. Courtney Cox's ex.
Arquette.
Sorry, say that again.
Arquette.
Arquette, yes, former WCW champion. Uh, um, but they found a way to make a really good, compelling movie, and I think there's plenty of options for Halloween to do something new, but they can't seem to get away from turning back to Jamie Lee Curtis. And if you ask me today if I think that it's more likely that she's going to be in it than not, unfortunately, my answer would be yes, and that's heartbreaking. Joining us, longtime supporter here at the channel and contributor, Matt. What's going on, buddy? I know you want to have your say on this.
Man, keep that bitch an executive producer. Keep her away from this movie. God, how many times had to just. I mean, I understand she makes money, but I don't think I she makes money for the common moviegoer for Halloween, not the hardcore fans like us. I mean, we're gonna go see the movie, but her name being attached to it doesn't do anything, but just cause more of a headache for us fans, because what does she have to tell anymore? What good is she to the movie other than what Randy said, possibly being like a mentor and and being very little of the movie. And I think that's almost what they were almost trying to go with in the third one to a degree, but that got jacked all up. I mean, the third one of this past trilogy, but I think that idea got jacked all up. So if she wants to be a producer, that's fine. If you want to keep it a very, very, very small role, she does not need to be core of the story. Michael is the story. What you do with Michael is the story, and you have supporting cast to flush out that story.
Yeah, you're not saying anything that I don't agree with. And again, it's important to emphasize that we're not sure if this means it'll be a movie or if it'll still be a TV series first. At this point, I would think everything is up in the air. Like Miramax already co-owns the movie rights, so that's why they were talking about doing a series that leads into a movie. Personally, I like the idea of recasting Loomis better and doing a period piece, but the idea of Laurie Strode being in it again tells me that regardless of how they do it, it's going to be some sort of jump forward in time. How old of a Michael Myers are we talking? Unless we see a new story unfolded where she plays a different version of Laurie and Michael's not an old man and they're not related or whatever. Um, but at the end of the day, like just to even entertain this for me makes this franchise feel creatively bankrupt, and that's heartbreaking to say as a Halloween fan because they really don't need to be. Regardless of what happens, Johnny was talking the business side of it earlier. It's going to be diminishing returns, even with her, whether it's a theatrical release or a TV series. Um, we'll be talking whether it's out in 2026 or 2027, whenever we see this thing. Um, you're going to be talking at most a half a decade in between projects. And I'm not saying there's not an appetite for Halloween. I think there is, but I don't think there's an appetite to see the same thing happen over and over again. Um, I will say this: if anybody has any questions or comments too that they want to leave regarding this Jamie Lee Curtis in talks to return to Halloween rumor that was covered by Cinestealth, which I trust. I think it's a very trustworthy source that has gotten a lot of things right in the past. Um, then please feel free to leave your comment now because we're going to move on from Halloween shortly. But again, diminishing returns, and I'll say this much: on next week's show, we'll cover a couple of the ideas that Lee McCoy discussed over on his channel, Drum Dums, and that was, so what if it's some kind of continuation from H2O? what if it's some sort of continuation from Halloween 4, but Laurie Strode's involved? Wouldn't be the first time that's been pitched. And that's why I went, son of a bitch. Both of those, if the story is done right, I might be intrigued, but it's still not what I want or what I prefer, or frankly, what I think the franchise needs at this state or at this point in time. Let us know your thoughts down below on the news about Jamie Lee Curtis potentially returning to the Halloween franchise yet again. Byron says in the chat, do you guys think that Malaka Cad is out of ideas? No, I don't think this is an out of idea thing. I think it's we really need to make some money, so it's the best way to do this, in my opinion. Laurie Strode Diaries, watch. She can't help herself and is jealous Michael Myers is bigger than she is in this franchise. Dustin says, her story is done, dead. Let me make this crystal clear. Her story is DEAD. Harnessing your Malcolm McDowell Loomis. I like it. I like it a lot. Byron also says, or asks, could they possibly erase Halloween Resurrection and bring her back? Yeah, in terms of popularity, H2O probably has more fans than Halloween 4. And I think there's a story to tell there, especially if you can get Josh Hartnett back. But if you're getting Hartnett back, to me, you make Laurie Strode's role as minimal as possible and you let him be the focus. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up with all of our content. Newly formatted show here called Fandomnation that we got going on weekly. We always encourage super chats, anything that helps support the channel, allows us to continue to go out there and make the content that we are. Let's I think Matt is back with us, so we know he doesn't want to miss this next topic. Crystal Lake series sounds like it may in fact be moving forward. Can't say that I like that we lost Brian Fuller. Can't say that I feel like we scrapped some really good story ideas. But it does lead me to ask you fellas this. What do you want out of a Crystal Lake series? What is really going to make you sit at the TV and watch this thing passionately as a Friday the 13th fan? Is it simple, just any content is going to do for you at this point in time, since we haven't gotten anything official from 2009? Or do they have to hit some points here for you to really be invested? Johnny?
I think for me, they just have to tell a cohesive Friday the 13th style story from start to finish. Since we're looking at almost, a prequel series, it's going to be interesting, to see how they do that. So long as they don't, I don't want to say don't step on the toes of what comes later, but not ruin what comes later. Obviously you're going to be making changes to pretty much everything, but I'm excited to see what they do with it. Like you said, I was much more excited 6 months ago when this was a Brian Fuller project, but it's going to come down to what kind of story they tell, how they tell it. Are the characters interesting? Is the writing good? Is the atmosphere there? And all of those things. They have some goodwill to make up with me, because I was so much more excited 6 months ago, like I said. So they do have to make up some ground for me, but I'll be there. I'll be watching it, and hopefully it's good. That's the most important thing for me, is that it's good, it's enjoyable, and that I have fun watching it. And that it's easily distributed in Canada. That's an important thing.
Yeah, I mean, not that there aren't other means to,
Well,
you
yeah, but
know,
we wouldn't endorse those.
watch said things, but yeah, of course, we would never ever do anything of that sort, and never ever have done anything, and have no knowledge of places like Kaza and LimeWire and what was the one Timberlake's played again in the Facebook movie? I can't remember the other one. Napster, is that it? Napster. What's going on, Lee? Lee sends in a 4.99 super chat. I want Jason goes to Terrence with Sand episode. Look, Terrence. Terrence's alter ego is having real issues with Hayden Christensen being front and center on the Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary re-release poster. So, Terrence might make his way out sooner than we all think.
Oh
Um,
God.
um, gonna switch things up here a bit and go down to you, Matt. I know your love and passion for Friday the 13th. I know we were both excited for the Brian Fuller take on this. Obviously, wildly successful with Hannibal.
Hmm.
What do they got to do to really get you invested, or is it simple as, look, it's been a decade and a half plus. Just give me something.
Two things. Well, I'm gonna say four things. Backstory, backstory, backstory. We have seen Jason going around killing different kinds of kills, different ways of killing. We need to know more about Elias and Pamela and why did what happened from the late 50s to 83. Kind of, I mean, we know, but it was okay. They kept on trying to shut down the camp. That'd be kind of cool to tell the story about. Tell the story of why their marriage failed. What made her become crazy other than protecting her son? There's more to this story. There's more they can do with this. That, I mean, they flirted with it. Oh, we're gonna do it, and they've never done it. This is the perfect time to do it. And if you want to bring back Hockey Mask Jason, do it towards the end of the first season. And then have him the aggressive, active Jason that we got from Derek Mears. Because that's what Jason is in my eyes. Not the stab. No. Derek Mears is Jason in my eyes, and I'm pretty sure he is in Johnny and Randy in your eyes also, is what you envision him as. So yeah, more prequel story and Jason running around at the end of the season is what I want.
I really question how much prequel story we're gonna get, because that was the route Fuller was going with, at least a portion of his, and they eventually scrapped that. I know the costs were getting out of hand, but we live in today in an industry where the costs are continuously getting out of hand. And as Johnny pointed out earlier, like, making a movie post COVID compared to pre COVID, or rather even a series, they're just two different beasts. I'm still trying to figure out how the Acolyte cost $230 million. So um, when I figure it out, I'll let you know. um, Randy, what do you need out of Crystal Lake, man?
So for me, obviously, I'm just going to be happy for new content. Obviously, I was getting my occasional fix through playing the game, and now that that's shut down, I'm kind of just jonesing for like finally an actual
You mean
movie
the
or
Nintendo game, right?
God, I hated that game. I played the hell out of it, but it frustrated me so much as a kid. But honestly, see, I liked the idea of what Fuller was going to go with. I liked the idea of giving us a backstory. Obviously, similar to Halloween, they're like, we want to make money. We know where we know where to butter our bread, and that's going to be Jason. And I'm fine with that. we can get. I would say I am definitely ready for another run around with Derek Mears as Jason, just because I liked the aggressiveness. I liked the thinking Jason. I liked that they gave him some form of humanity, but just a straight up thinking killer. I liked that. I thought that's what he should have always been. But 80s being the 80s, you're going to get the cheesy stuff like always, and that's still fun entertainment too. Ultimately, I had before Fuller left, was kind of envisioning kind of the Bates Motel take on Friday the 13th, where we see young Jason, we see, you see mom and dad, we see, we're seeing this, and we're seeing things go through multiple seasons leading up to the point of where not only he supposedly drowns, but then the idea of her, just dive into insanity to where ultimately the final season would be the start of the movie, the first movie, which that would have been my pitch anyway. But ultimately at this point, I think getting some new content is enough to get me on board. I hope it's good. I hope they actually decide to tell a story rather than, hey, let's just have Jason Rampage. We need new characters we can get behind, so that or you just, and if they're going to be really dumb about it and bring just stupid characters you want to hate and you just want to watch them get killed, I mean, I guess that they could do that and it'll be okay. But if they want to keep it going, it's going to have to have some form of depth to it. It can't be just mindless hack and slash. And I mean, Child's Play proved you could make a slasher film into a TV series and have it work for as long as it did. I was impressed it got as many seasons as it did, but it wasn't horrible either. So if we can get something that's at least a decent story, I'll be happy with it. But at this point, we're so starved for content for Friday the 13th. It makes it really difficult to just be like, I want something good. At this point, I want something, anything. Something's better than nothing. And if we don't, and obviously, as long as we don't get Jason X, I think we're good, right?
Come on now. Clearly the best movie in the franchise. I want to read a few comments here. Going to start with, I know it's not right on Crystal Lake, but I want to address as many comments as we can tonight. Toxic Tune says Halloween Ends could have been different, to leave a gap open, or to leave an open gap to continue the franchise, but they went a very weird direction with that. Yeah, well, if you tune into our Patreon show after this, which is one night only, will be free, Late Night with Fandom, we're going to talk about the creative storylines that Jamie Lee Curtis squashed. So stay tuned for that. Joey Shakes says, if they introduced Corey early in the trilogy, I think it would have been separated a lot better going into Ends and not making the Laurie Michael fight such a quick ending. Yes, Michael Myers has less than 10 minutes of screen time in Halloween Ends. I know people like to say that the last fight alone was 10 minutes. It was not. More like about 2.5. But I don't disagree with that point. Ernie says that I hope they don't get Kane Hodder to play Jason. I'd still go back to Derek Mears. If he can physically do it, then I think Mears' portrayal of the character was fantastic. Troy, long time no see, buddy. Hope you're well. Really hope creatively Halloween and Malaka Cat and his people come up with something better than Laurie Strode for the millionth time to do something different with the Halloween franchise. Well, I feel like I speak for everybody on the panel tonight and say, we're with you, Troy. I just don't have confidence that that's going to happen anymore. I wish I did. Let's, again, if anybody has any thoughts on the Crystal Lake series, what they would like to see in the series, please comment down below, whether you're watching live or after the fact. We would love to hear your thoughts. Or see your thoughts, rather. Scream 7 leaks. So there's a few photos here on the screen of Ghostface shooting Scream 7 already. I seen the video footage, and let me tell you guys this: the backlash that I saw online over the way Ghostface was moving made me want to once again bang my head off of a desk. So in the actual footage, they show Ghostface, and he has it's not quite Michael Myers, but he has like a slowish walk to him, more of a menacing take on Ghostface. And I thought already with Scream 6 they started to go that way, with making him less clumsy. You know, he wasn't really tripping over couches and falling over tables and, you know, just pulling the Jar Jar Binks of it all in a horror movie. I thought they really limited that in Scream 6. I thought the movie was a lot better for it. I like the idea of a ghost face chasing someone, but like he knows he has them. And so instead of running like an aimless idiot and, you know, tripping over something, he walks menacingly towards them, he or she. I like that. If, again, same with the Halloween thing. If we wanted the same fucking thing over and over and over again, you already have it. Watch those movies. Why not switch it up a bit? Matt, gonna go in reverse order. Start with you.
If it's slowly walking, and it seems that
Oh, it is. I've seen the footage. There's no question about it.
could have been Matthew Lillard.
I still
And
feel like he's gonna play a ghost of some sort.
I don't know. See, I've seen so many theories say he's still alive and how they portrayed it. And there are a couple of good ones out there, but I think Ghost was good for Billy Loomis. I don't think Ghost using what's his name, Stu, as a ghost makes as much sense. It just feels like on some level he's been in the background the whole time pulling strings. On some level. And I don't mind I'm slow and menacing Ghostface, but I also want a clumsy ball of a table fast-paced Ghostface also. So we're getting. I think what they saw there. Oh my God, he's slow. He's menacing. That's just one scene. But you know, I just don't think people playing way too much into it. It was one scene. He could be slow and menacing. The next scene they shoot, he's running down the damn street chasing somebody.
Yeah, mine just comes back to the we don't need to see the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
Let's try something new.
Mm-hmm. Little both.
Randy, how about you, man? What do you think about a ghost face that isn't going to pull Jar Jar Binks?
I mean, to me, it just sounds like an evolution of the character. Obviously, if you think about some of the earlier stuff where, yeah, dude's tripping over stuff, that's kind of like adrenaline fueled. Like you're trying to, like someone's literally intentionally trying to just do whatever they can to get the kill, and they're screwing up because they're not paying attention. If it's to the point now where it's deliberate, where the person is just like menacingly walking towards someone because that's their, that's their objective, then that's fine. I think that's fine because it shows a level-headedness that previous ghost faces didn't have. And change is good. If you want to feel scared, you want to have a different type of emotion, change things up a little bit. And I think doing something like that helps. Ultimately, yeah, sometimes people can get bored with that, but who cares? As long as it's good, as long as it fits the scene and the energy, that everything's there, the music, I think, it works.
Johnny, what about you, man?
Simply put, I don't give a shit. Ghostface, as far as I'm concerned, has the unique ability of the fact that it's not the same person every time. Ghostface does not have a universal playbook outside of the costume. You know, I'm sorry, but if you're making a big deal that Ghostface is suddenly stalking someone and walking slowly, you don't understand anything. Because each Ghostface is unique. Each Ghostface motives are unique, which allow them to be individuals, which is one of the best parts about the Scream franchise. Like,
Amen.
you go into a Scream movie and, you know, if you're not part of the community that follows leaks and spoilers, you will spend at least half the movie trying to figure out who Ghostface is. Because it's always unique, it's always different. And that's what makes it special. That's part of the reason it's been able to carry on as long as it has, while still sort of maintaining the same core cast as long as it has, because you have that ability to have a different killer motives every time out, and that is huge for it. So, like, if you're complaining about seeing Ghostface walk slowly, and once you, for one, you don't even know the context of the scene. You don't understand what's going on. You know, for all you know, that's not even Ghostface in sort of the traditional sense. Like, you know, how many times has a character seen Ghostface walking down a street for them to turn around and be like, oh, it's not Ghostface? You know, like, things like that happen all the time. So, if you're getting your knickers in a knot because he's walking slow during one scene where you have no context on the fact that Ghostface is walking slow and, you know, sort of being, you know, stealthy and stalker-y versus run at you and stab you in the face, I just don't know what to tell you. I really don't, because
Ghostface is wearing size 11 boots in this movie instead of 13. I'm done. This
exactly.
franchise is dead.
Oh my gosh, the blade doesn't have the correct curvature, or, you know, who cares? They're
The eyes
unique. They're
droop 2 centimeters
different.
less.
Like, I'm sorry, but, like, you have nothing to complain about. Like, it just further pushes just how stupid, you know, the fan bases are with having Twitter and Facebook and all these other places where they can complain about these things. Like, shut up. You don't know shit. You don't know why he's walking like that. You don't know what's actually going on. Like, it just, pull your hat out of your ass, wait for the movie to come out, and if you want to critique something legitimate. Like, if you want to be like, oh, Matthew Lillard is coming back, that's stupid. You're redoing the same trope again. The killer's, you know, back from the dead, or the killer, it's a ghost. Like, you already did that. You want to complain about stuff like that, then I'll listen to your critiques, because we don't know how that story is going to play out. As much as we sit here and speculate, you know, is he dead? Is he alive? Is he a ghost? Is he not a ghost? Is it a flashback? What's the circumstance? We don't have those answers yet. If you want to
Car
complain
salesman,
about
you heard it
that,
here.
I'll accept it as a valid complaint until such time as we actually see how the story plays out. But like this is ridiculous. This is just yelling to hear your voice. We don't want to hear your voice. Shut up. Stop talking. And if you have a legitimate complaint, we'll listen. Until such time, shut up.
It's crazy the things that people will complain about. You know, I think the Halloween franchise fan base has reason to be upset with, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
JLC concerns, but Ghostface is walking too slow. Like, come on, be happy that you're getting another movie, and let's just end it with that. Let us know if you've seen the footage of the Scream 7 leaks. Um, Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. We would love to hear them. That's going to do it for our buddy Matt on tonight's show. Matt, just want to say thank you as always for your love and support and the commitment to the channel. And
Thank you,
any
Mike.
any final thoughts?
CM Punk's going to win the Elimination Chamber.
Oh, I wish you were right.
It's either Cena or Punk's going to win it.
Oh, storyline wise, you're probably right, but
Mm.
I'm not betting $5 Canadian on that one.
Ooh.
So
All right, gentlemen. Y'all have a good night.
you take it easy, bro.
All right, bud.
Mr. Matt Whitfield, as always, stay well, buddy. Keep fighting the good fight, bro. We're all here for you. That is going to bring us to. I'm going to go a little bit off here. If you fellas want to grab a bathroom break or a drink, feel free to do so. I'm going to take 2 or 3 minutes here and do a review of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So about a month ago, Disney Plus started airing the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man on their platform, and I wasn't sure what I was going to think of it. The animation definitely takes some time to uh, adjust to, but uh, I'll keep it short and simple. There are a lot of episodes in this series that are duration wise longer than some of the live action Star Wars episodes, which is just kind of funny considering it's an animated show. And it has character development in the show and not just Peter Parker that, really makes the character development or lack thereof we got in something like The Acolyte really, really show in a very, very bad way. Um, the character development in the show is fantastic. The voice acting cast is fantastic. Love I will say this, the multiverse approach it takes. Um, Tommy B and I have been talking about it off air for the last few weeks, and we both described the story as a consistent, slow burn that gets better with every single episode that we see for the series. Um, it just increasingly got better. In my opinion, this is the best animated thing Disney Plus has done. They've been, there's been some hits, there's been some misses, but this is not just better than any of the animated stuff Disney Plus has done, but I'm going to go ahead and say it that this series is better than most of the MCU movies post Endgame. Like, it is fantastic, and it sounds like season 2 is basically a sure thing, and I'm curious to see where they take the story. You know, without spoiling too much, there are some Avengers elements in it, but mainly it is a story about Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man, and um, I never in a million years would have dreamed that the series would, get me into it as much as it did. And now I'm sitting here desperate for season 2, pissed that we're going to have to wait a year to get it. So if you haven't watched it yet, I strongly encourage you to give The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man a chance. It gets better with every episode, which is not something you can say often for series. Sometimes the beginning starts at a certain point and it's all downhill from there. This is the exact opposite. This is just one steady climb that really hits the nail on the head. I don't believe Johnny or Randy have seen this, so definitely encourage them to check it out, as I do all of you. All right. Um, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars is going to shoot back to back in London later this year, confirmed by the Russo brothers. Um, it's not a big discussion point, but I will ask you guys this. Do you have any pros or cons about movies shooting back to back? Some people like to, like, even if you're in a trilogy and you already got the first one in the bank, some people still prefer there to be a gap between 2 and 3 rather than shooting them together. It should be noted they shot Infinity War and Endgame together. Um, Johnny, I'll start with you. Any concerns about filming back to back, or just makes financial sense. Is Johnny not listening to us? Randy, I'll go to you.
All right. I think given what the Russos were able to do with, you know, with the Infinity War and Endgame, for them to go back to back again with Avengers movies, I think that's fine. And I do think part of it is for cost reasons. But if you think about it, depending on how the ending of Doomsday is, uh, it very well could be something that leads directly into Secret Wars, as it's obviously that's been hinted at as well here and there. So, I mean, we've seen some movies that it works for. Obviously, um, I wouldn't say like for say the Deathly Hollows. Obviously, they had to split that into two movies because of how much filming they had to do. But I think if there's anybody that I would at least trust with doing it this way, it's going to be the Russos. Obviously, I have had a ton of success since, but I think maybe just these type of movies maybe just might be in their wheelhouse, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, you know, leading up to everything leading up to these movies will work and will make sense, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I think for me the biggest thing is you have to you almost have to shoot them as close to back as possible, if not back to back, simply because um, there's just so many moving pieces involved, so many different actors and actresses, and scheduling today in today's industry is so hard. So I'm not shocked they're going back to back. I don't think it'll hurt them.
Well, with
Again,
that many stars, like on in one, well, two movies essentially, that's a lot of people to have to deal with.
oh, it 100% is. We've seen this happen in Star Wars too, and projects that have tried to get off the ground where it's just like they can't seem to schedule things and get things to line up. So for me, going back to back makes a lot of sense. You know, you do wonder if creatively it will become exhausting. Shooting one of these things is not easy to do. Um, but, you know, as you said, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Johnny, do you have any concerns about Avengers shooting back to back?
No. Um, I mean, I guess the only real concern would be someone getting hurt. Um, which is a much more real possibility in a superhero film environment. Um, that's really my only concern. And even that's relatively small, because for the most part, their stunts aren't quite as crazy as you would assume for a superhero. It's more likely that a routine fight scene is going to end up with somebody breaking a nose, or something, breaking a hand or something that's going to require working around that, than anything else. So outside of that, no, I really don't have any concerns. Especially not with such vastly different stories. Um, I think that'll be easier. It I mean, I guess not easier, because a part one, part two is infinitely easier, since you're just basically shooting one super long movie. Whereas this one, you are doing sort of two disparate, distinct entities taking place on vastly different, sort of playing fields. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see that. But no, I don't think it's going to hurt it at all. I think the fact that you do pretty much have one continuous creative staff in it helps it, obviously, because you're not going from one filming style to another, which helps. So everything's still going to be the same. It's mostly just going to be one super long project. Uh, then if you have, two directors or two different director teams that are doing two different parts of, a saga, which thankfully really hasn't happened. So it's, no, I don't have any concerns at all, really. Like I said, outside of the possibility of somebody getting hurt, I don't have any concerns, really at all.
I will say this. I would not be saying that these two movies are not going to be part one and part two, because despite what the source material might be, I can almost guarantee you that these movies are going to come across like part one and part two. Secret Wars will be a direct continuation from Avengers Doomsday, um,
Yeah,
which
but
might piss
not
some
in the
people
way
off.
that like the snap was in Endgame and Infinity War. You go
I
from
think,
one seamlessly into the next, but I don't think it's going to be because of an event like that. It's just going to be a one ends, the other starts. There's no off time.
yeah, I don't think there's off time. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think, however Doomsday ends, is going to be how Secret Wars
Oh, for
continues.
sure.
But I don't think we're going to be talking a snap level event, just rather a big bad who really notches things up to the next level, sort of thing. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited for the movies. I have not been a big fan of post Endgame MCU, and really excited to see what they're able to do with both of these entries. I just hope it's handled right. Um, let's move on to one of my favorite movie franchises. Johnny Depp apparently has been approached about reprising his role as Jack Sparrow. Now, we knew that there was two scripts in development. At one point, there was two different ones in development, uh, and then they moved on to these two. One which would have nothing to do with Jack Sparrow, and the other one which would feature Jack Sparrow. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the lead. I'm not saying it'd be Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens, where you only get him in the last scene, but I could definitely see them doing a story about finding Jack for whatever reason, and Depp's roles primarily in the final act of the film. Um, I've stood by this take for years. I will continue to stand by it because of how the franchise has played out to date. There is no Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp. There just isn't. It won't work. It will fall on its face. You'll be looking at Solo or Indiana Jones 5 in terms of how you do financially, which is losing a lot of money. Um, you need Depp to make it work. You can't. It'd be one thing if it's like you killed off Jack Sparrow on screen in a movie and then you came back and did the next one. But knowing that he's still out there and isn't really getting a proper conclusion, then you need him back. Like, these movies just don't work without him. They changed so much of that original Pirates movie, which, Zach Arnold and I used to say it's in the top five movies we'll never say no to. It's just a cinematic piece of art. Um, it doesn't work without Jack Sparrow, so they need to make it work. And frankly, I think that Depp and Heard trial. Not saying Johnny doesn't have his own demons. Not this Johnny. I'm sure he does have his own demons, but Johnny Depp. Um, you know, uh, to me, he's done enough to clear his name and reputation that they should be willing to, extend the bridge and make something work. And now knowing the shit that this guy was going through while filming Pirates 5 really explains how he comes off in that movie, because it's nowhere near the quality of the first four. Thoughts, Randy? Does Pirates for you work without Johnny Depp? For me, it's a no go.
Oh no, absolutely not. Essentially, if Depp's not, Captain Jack in Pirates of the Caribbean, then you don't call it Pirates of the Caribbean. You call it something else, because it just doesn't work without him. Um, it's one of those career defining roles. Even though he's had been an actor for so long and has had amazing roles in a bunch of different movies, whether there's anything with Tim Burton or other stuff, other things, even getting his start in Nightmare on Elm Street. This is one of those iconic roles that no one else can play. I don't see anybody being able to fill Captain Jack's shoes. You can parody him all you want, whether it's SNL or some sort of goofy ass, comedy where they make fun of, try to make fun of everything. But ultimately, this role, it was meant for Johnny Depp, and honestly, I'm excited for the possibility of seeing him as Captain Jack one more time, even if this is it. I mean, it's long overdue.
Johnny, not Depp, but V.
For me, I guess I don't so much care. Only insofar as I have not enjoyed a Pirates movie since the third one. So it to me, it's just, it sort of played itself out for me. I was never as big as you were. They were fun. I enjoyed them, but anything after the third one just didn't do anything for me. I think you and I went to see the fourth one in theater together, and it just, they haven't really done it for me. So I don't know. I mean,
I
is
do
Johnny
like the fourth one a lot better than the third one personally. The third one I felt like was one of those movies where, and then we were just talking back to back with Avengers, right? Well,
Mhm.
Pirates 2 and 3 shot back to back. I think 2 is one of the most underrated movie sequels of all time. That's how good it was. 3, I felt like fell off a cliff and wasn't even close to the quality of the second one. And then 4 was obviously an adjustment because now you're dealing with a story that's primarily just Jack and Barbossa. So it is different. The tone's different. It feels different. Time has passed, but I really liked 4, and then 5. They obviously tried to cram in fan service and did whatever they could to cover what was going on with Johnny and his personal life. But I get where you're coming from. I think there's a lot of people that feel the way you do, frankly.
Mhm. I mean, I think it's if you're going to do another one, you do need Johnny. There's no question about that. Even as someone who hasn't enjoyed a Pirates movie since the third one, you need him. He is that important. You can't, you can't. You've spent too much time building Captain Jack as the center of this universe that if he's not there, you would need to strike lightning in a bottle. And could they? Sure, they could. Do I think they would? No, probably not. And I think that everyone would be expecting Captain Jack. Um, so it's if you don't have him, I don't do it.
What's going on, Flicks? Long time no see, buddy. Flicks has one of the most impressive man caves I've ever seen in my life. Just absolutely jealous of it. You missed Halloween talk here for the first 40 minutes or so of this episode, dude. So if you want to rewind and dive into what we talk about with Halloween and Scream and Crystal Lake, feel free to do so. We are back every Tuesday here, starting at 8:30 p.m. And I say every Tuesday knowing that we may have to have a funky release schedule here for what's going on with Andor, but we'll get to that shortly. Um, yeah, like for me, Depp's been out of the mainstream Hollywood eye for so long that I do think we're at a point in time where people just finding out that Johnny Depp is back as Jack Sparrow. I'm not saying it will have the Force Awakens effect, but it will have the Pirates version of that. It's not going to make $2 billion+ at the worldwide box office. It'll still probably be diminishing returns, but on the flip side is, Johnny Depp's not going to get paid what he got paid for Pirates, 2 through 5 to come back. They can do it at a lesser budget. I still think you don't do it just for the sake of doing it. You do it because you have a really good Jack Sparrow story to tell. But that's my 2 cents. Let us know down in the comment section below how you feel about Johnny Depp potentially returning for Pirates 6. Which is going to lead us, fellas, into our Star Wars discussion here. Big news came out this morning from Puck News. Should be noted that the fella who runs Puck News used to be one of the main editors at the Hollywood Reporter. It's why people cover that site. I know it doesn't sound legitimate, but they're often accurate. And they stated the same thing that Jeff Snyder did last year, that it seems as if Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down / retiring as the Lucasfilm president. Um, I'll give a few thoughts here, and then I'm going to hand it off to Johnny. Him and I have been doing Star Wars content for about a decade now. I will say this. It's about damn time. It needs to happen. Sometimes you just need to have change. Sometimes you need a new face, a new voice. We're at a point now where it's past time, right? Like, there's no doubt about it, it's past time. So many canceled or permanently delayed movies. So many writers and directors fired and let go. The catastrophe of Solo, the mess that was The Rise of Skywalker, the no plan for the sequel trilogy. It was time. Now there's going to be people that try to convince you that Kathleen Kennedy never did any good. And those people are just fucking wrong. First of all, she's one of the most successful Hollywood producers of all time. First ballot Hall of Famer. Her success cannot be debated. Doesn't make her a good studio head, but her success cannot be debated. But even in terms of her success with Star Wars, if you look at the first 7 years on the job for her, you had Star Wars Rebels, very successful. Star Wars The Last Jedi, super divisive, really tore the franchise fan base in half to an extent, but wildly successful at the box office. Rogue One, wildly successful at the box office. The Rise of Skywalker, still very successful at the box office despite it being a creative mess. Solo was a disaster. We got season 7 of Clone Wars. But the big one, let me ask you guys this. Are you aware of what the #1 movie ever is? Ever at the domestic box office? Not worldwide, domestic. Do one of you two have the answer? Without using Box Office Mojo.
I was about to say, not without looking it up. I mean, I'd almost have to say The Force Awakens just because of like what it did in theaters just here by itself.
A lot of people would have said Infinity War or Endgame or an Avatar movie or Titanic. And the answer is The Force Awakens. It is the most successful domestic box office release ever. And you can hate Kathleen Kennedy all you want. And yes, she's not the only one responsible for that. But you cannot disclude her from the success of that film. And there's a chance that that record may never be broken. We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, they
But
did nearly $250 million opening weekend domestically.
yeah, which is nuts, right? Like, that's not a worldwide number. That's the domestic number. And I believe worldwide, domestically all time, it's sitting at like 930 or 940. almost $1 billion just domestically, not including the rest of the world, is fucking bonkers. Avengers didn't do it. Avatar didn't do it. Titanic didn't do it. The Force Awakens did do it. She definitely deserves to wear the crown of responsibility for all the shit kicking the franchise has gotten in the last 6 years of the run. But the first seven, really, outside of Solo, maybe some creative decisions with The Last Jedi, and then definitely with The Rise of Skywalker, from a pure business model sense, her run is the story of two tales. The first half is wildly successful beyond most people's dreams, and the second half was, the 18-wheeler going off the cliff. Um, Johnny, your take on Kathleen Kennedy stepping down and what this could mean for the franchise?
I mean, it's all going to come down to who's next and how well they can maneuver in the Disney corporate structure. I mean, we can harp on Kathleen for a lot of things that have happened in the Disney era of Star Wars, but at the end of the day, we're really not going to know exactly how much of it was entirely her. Like, we can point fingers and be like, yeah, the buck stopped with her, but it didn't. There was an entire corporate structure above her at Disney. So, I lay a lot of the blame for, announcing projects that never came to fruition. That's on her. A lot of the sort of, mismanagement of talent, I think for the most part, that's her. Again, I don't know how much of that's, she could be, for all we know, she's taking a lot of bullets for a lot of people above her. And if she is, all the more respect to her for that. For just standing here and taking it for as long as she has, if she's not, as responsible as we think she is for a lot of these failures that have occurred under her. But, you're right. As far as her resume and her record goes, she had it. When she took the job, she was the person for the job. No one could have made a case against her at the time she got that. I mean, she produced pretty much every film Amblin ever made. And how many of those are box office hits? Huge box office hits. I just spent a few minutes looking at her profile as a producer, and it's hit after hit after hit after hit after
Yep.
hit, for the better part of the first 20 years of her career. From the first movie she produced in 1982, which Poltergeist, through 2005, they're she's got a success record in easily 80 plus percentile. So there's no question that she knows what she's doing when it comes to being a producer. Now, does that mean those skills translated to being the head of the studio? Again, I don't know, because I don't know how much of it's her and how much of it's, operating within the corporate Disney structure, which, just looking at it from the outside perspective, has been, for at least the last 5 years, been pure, unfiltered, unadulterated chaos. So it's I don't know. The more and more crap we saw out of Disney in the 2020s, through the Chapek era and the end of the run before that, and Iger after, it just, it's, I definitely have more questions about how much of it was actually her and how much of it was, handcuffs being placed on her that we don't know about, that she sort of took the bullets for. And I don't think we'll ever know that. Because I don't think, at the end of the day, Kathleen has always been very focused on the talent, not on me. That's why for so long she was like, even for someone like me who is, seen all of these movies, never put two and two together that she produced all of them. Like even now, I was looking, like I just said, I went through her IMDb profile just a few minutes ago. Genuinely, I had no idea she was a producer for Back to the Future.
Sure
I didn't know
was.
that. Like, I knew she did most of the Spielberg movies. Like, I knew she was Jurassic Park and all that, but I didn't know she also did all these other Amblin projects that she was in on. So, like,
She's the definition of a first ballot Hall of Famer, and
for
she's probably
producers,
the greatest,
absolutely.
probably the greatest female producer of all time.
I
Maybe even
can't
the
argue
greatest
that.
producer.
I mean, I can't make an argument against that. Are there other candidates? I'm sure, but producers, for the most part, the good producers, you don't know who they are. You don't recognize them when you see them in credits until they take like a studio head position, or they start directing themselves, or some of those other things where all of a sudden the focus becomes on them. It I think she did more. I don't want to say she did more good than bad, but I don't know how much of the bad is solely her responsibility.
I feel like it's 50-50, right? Like, at the end of the day, she's still the president, and whether it's fair or not, she's got to wear a lot of it. And
Oh, for sure.
uh, I don't think a 50-50 runs the worst thing in the world, but I think the problem was the good 50% all happens in the early stages, and the bad 50% is
Yeah.
all we've really known for the last 6 or 7 years, and has the franchise where it is, and not an ideal spot. Randy, I want to get your thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy reportedly stepping down / retiring, and also because I'm going to bounce the question back to Johnny here. We can't spend too much time on it, but um, after Randy's done, like, you know what this means, fellas, is outside of Mandalorian and Grogu, and likely the Ryan Gosling, Sean Levy film that's about to be announced at Celebration. Any of these other projects that we've heard of and we've discussed over recent weeks, every one of them will get put on hold while the new person comes in and evaluates everything and may want to take it in another direction. Even if Kathleen Kennedy has a say in who her successor is, those things are still going to happen. Randy, your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, I'm thankful for what she has done for Star Wars. We did get a lot of good stuff. Yeah, we got a lot of bad stuff too, but that's, unfortunately, I think that really just stemmed from the fact that they're like, okay, let's make money. Let's do what we can to try to, get the machine going. And that's kind of what ultimately is a downfall here in that respect, especially the past 5-6 years. I mean, we've had some hits and some misses, a lot of misses, but ultimately, I mean, I can't solely put the blame on her. Obviously, she'll take her lumps once she finally exits. And I'm just happy that, we got something, something new in when it first all started. But ultimately, it's time. It's time to get some fresh blood in there. And as much as I know a lot of people would be like, oh, can we get Dave Filoni in there? Dude's too busy basically checking every single movie script to make sure it jives with what they want to do with Star Wars. I don't think he's got time for that that head job. So as much as we all want it, as much as we all trust in Filoni and what he's doing, I think it's going to be someone else. Hopefully, someone who has a more, I would say, a bigger, not a bigger, but a better head on their shoulders in terms of their love of Star Wars and having a clear vision of where it needs to go. It's time to get some new stories. It's time to get some new characters to fall in love with. And her stepping down and someone else coming in is probably the perfect opportunity to have that happen.
A few of the names that have been put out there today by insiders are Filoni's name's been one of them. Same with Favreau's name. Favreau's probably a little more qualified for that title than Filoni is at this point. And Filoni's, he's got the Triple H role. He's the chief creative content officer or whatever. I don't know if you want him out of that role to focus on more of the business things. Like, yeah, you'll have more of a say in what gets greenlit or whatnot, but I kind of like Filoni in the role he's in now. The number one name, though, that was at the top of the list was Kevin Feige. He's had a long run with Marvel. The final, I shouldn't say the final two, but the next two Avengers films are filming this year. That'll wrap by the end of this year. Feige's a huge Star Wars fan, bigger Star Wars fan than Marvel fan, believe it or not. He would be a good guy for the job, but then who takes over for him with Marvel? Johnny, your thoughts on all this?
I think just off rip.
By the way, there was two other names. I don't remember who they were. I don't have it in front of me.
I saw Variety had I think David Heyman's name.
There were two names that, like, for me, weren't instantly recognizable, so that might be one of them.
I think David Heyman was one of those. I think it was the producer for the Harry Potter series. But like I'm just gonna start with saying this. I love the man to death. I love what he's done for Star Wars, but Dave Filoni is not qualified for this job. We need to stop that. Cut it, nip it in the bud. He is not in any way qualified for this job. The fact that to this point in his career, he has done 0 films outside of what's currently in production immediately disqualifies him from this job. Immediately. And you are absolutely right in saying that he has the job he needs to have.
It should disqualify him for the job.
Yes. He has the job he should have. He has the job he needs to have. He is the Star Wars nerd that has only been out-nerded in Star Wars lore a handful of times that we know of. Like, he ingested everything he could. He learned the lore of Star Wars from George. He is in the job he needs to have, and putting him in charge of everything is not. It's not smart. Like, I'm sorry, it's not smart. He's not qualified for the job from a technical standpoint. He's not qualified for the job from a business standpoint. Like, the only qualification he has is from a story standpoint, which, guess what? That's the job he's already got. Like, you might be the greatest regional manager in company history. That doesn't mean you should be the CEO.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're talking
like
the
this.
president.
It's the example. Like, this is a weird example, but it's a parallels are uncanny to me. Michael Scott was the greatest manager of the Scranton branch of Dunder Mifflin. Michael Scott could never have worked at corporate Dunder Mifflin. If you watch The Office, you understand that. And you will nod your head and agree with me completely. But, it just... Dave is not qualified. You need someone who is a producer. And I like the idea of Favreau. Like, sure, he's qualified. He, along with Feige, kickstarted the Marvel universe as we know it. But at the same time, I think, and, I'm sorry to say this, but the fact, if you put Favreau in the role, you are staring down the barrel of the DC gun. Pun intended. Because James Gunn has done a terrible job in this exact role for DC. Terrible.
Yeah, I haven't liked his PR approach, or two, the early returns have been that we've got from him so far.
And his resume to be the head of DC Film Studios is very similar to Jon Favreau's resume would be as head of this. So I don't, you need someone whose role has exclusively been a producer, someone who understands the financial aspect of this much better than they do the creative aspect of this. And great creative heads do not make great studio heads. It's not the great directors that are running studios, it's the agents. that are running studios because they understand the money.
I mean, the perfect hire really would be Kevin Feige, whether you're an MCU fan or not. It's just whether he's willing to move on or allowed to move on, right? Like, um, that one makes a lot of sense to me, but I still think there's a very strong chance that they bring someone from the outside in. No idea who that is, but we'll have to wait and see. It's an exciting time. Whether she steps down before the release of Mando or Grogu in 2026 remains to be seen, despite a lot of these reports saying it will be this year. We're about to enter a different age for Star Wars finally, and it's a change that has needed to come for some time. Please let us know down in the comment sections down below your thoughts on
Pulling
Kathleen.
up quickly the Variety article that came out today for who could fill the role. It was David Heyman, who was the Harry Potter producer.
Mhm.
Mary Parent.
Hang on. David Heyman is the producer of the movies or the upcoming series?
The movies.
Okay.
Mary Parent, who oversees the Dune and Godzilla franchises.
No, thank you. Hard pass.
Another top agent suggested Peter Rice, who was fired by Bob Chapek a few years ago, who has the producing. He helped develop X-Men. So he's
They just
someone that
hired
was
a guy
also
too to be involved at Lucasfilm that was behind all the X-Men films. Forget what that guy's name was and forget what title he's taking on at Lucasfilm, but he's involved. But yeah, so there's some non-Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni names involved here. To me, the name doesn't need to be sweet and sexy. I think the name needs to understand we need a different direction than what we've been going, and most importantly, we need some fucking consistency and someone who has a little better PR than Kathleen Kennedy.
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I'd actually be fine with Heyman only because he understands what it takes to take a huge multi-billion-dollar franchise and keep it going, and that's what he did with the movies. For the Harry Potter movies, he did do. I mean, if Feige took the job, that'd be cool. Definitely someone who loves Star Wars, but in return, if you're going to do that to Marvel Studios and have him step down, you need to find someone who has that same passion for Marvel as he does Star Wars. And that way you can inject the same type of fresh blood that you are looking for in Star Wars as well. Because as we've seen, Marvel hasn't exactly been doing gangbusters lately.
Flick says Filoni should stay put. They're good governors who would make terrible presidents, right? Money and creative control blur together. There needs to be more separation going forward. Yeah, I don't disagree with that take at all. Johnny and I already gave our thoughts on the Andor 2 trailer. To see those thoughts, tune into our Patreon tomorrow. It'll be available to all base members. Would have released it on the channel, but there's some tech issues at the beginning of it that really didn't have the time to edit out. So that trailer reaction will be posted on the channel. Randy, I'll give you the floor for now. What were your thoughts on the Andor 2 trailer?
I thought it was pretty exciting, actually. They definitely did not scrimp on the action. Obviously, we know with Andor season 1, there's a lot of character building, a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of drama, and just everything building to what season 2 is going to be. And I think they did a really good job of just kind of giving us that breakneck pace feel of probably what his life was like after season 1 leading up to the start of Rogue One. So I'm really excited for this. It looks good. I love how they treated showing characters coming back. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait for us to have our watching series. And also I can't wait for us to do Andor season 1. Hopefully we can figure that out.
think the bigger problem is going to be figuring out how the hell we watch and review season 2. So, with their release schedule, we're going to put our heads together over the next week or two and figure out what's the best way to do it. But the truth is, we probably won't have a concrete answer till we find out. Are they still doing 9 p.m. releases with them doing that, or are they just going to be the 3 a.m. release? My hope it's the 3 a.m. release so that, I have split shifts. I can knock out an episode or two in between. But either way, the odds of doing this on Tuesday are quickly diminishing, and wouldn't be surprised if we're doing a Wednesday post AEW Dynamite reviews of this. It's, again, story wise, I get why they're doing it. Business wise, it makes no sense whatsoever. And we'll do our best to figure out how we're going to cover the content. But much like a lot of other content creators right now, we just don't have a good answer for it. So stay tuned for that. Also announced today, something we discussed a while back on the channel. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is re-releasing in theaters, opening April, I believe it's the 25th is that it's opening, which is the Friday. It's Easter weekend. It's also WrestleMania weekend.
No,
I know we're going to do some sort of event for it up here.
Hold on.
It's really
No, it isn't.
Or is that the weekend before?
Weekend after.
Like WrestleMania is the weekend before.
Yes.
So WrestleMania is
the weekend of the 19th.
Which is Easter, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Possibly. Should be. It's the third weekend in April. I think that's Easter
Okay.
weekend.
Well, that makes it a lot more doable for me, and I would have been doing it anyways. This is my second favorite Star Wars movie, so would like to find a theater that's going to offer the special cups, though. That would be nice. The artwork looks fantastic. We won't talk about the movie yet. Obviously, Revenge of the Sith was a wildly successful movie. We talked about the Phantom Menace artwork last year. We know Johnny's not a fan of the prequels. However, I know he likes this one. So I'll start with you, Johnny. Just thoughts on the artwork for the re-release here.
I mean, it's aesthetically pleasing. That's the most important thing for this. It works very nicely with sort of the juxtaposition of the classic poster with, Anakin and Obi-Wan on the lava fields of Mustafar. You've got Anakin sort of looking over it, and then Vader looming in the background, all in front of the Mustafar facilities. It's very nice. I'd say it's more closer to like genuine art than a movie poster. Like, this is something you'd see sort of hanging up on your wall in portrait, not in landscape, not in portrait.
Yeah, they did two of them. There's a portrait one and a landscape one, but also the background's actually Coruscant and the Battle of Coruscant. There's a ton of ships up there that I know you're a big Star Wars ship guy. Be really cool to get like some high quality zoom ins to see all the different ships that are included.
But no, it's really nice, juxtaposing those two important events in one piece of art is nice. I like it. I like the look of it from the first time I saw it. I thought, yeah, I could actually hang this on a wall and be okay with that. So I like it. I really enjoy it. It's nice to look at.
We know somewhere Kieran's just thrilled with Hayden Christensen being front and center with this poster. Kenny says, first time I saw Revenge of the Sith was with my dad at theaters in 2005. A moment a Star Wars fan will never forget. Yeah, I went with a bunch of people mini putting that night. And from there, my friend Greg and I did the midnight release where, you didn't have chosen seating and you're waiting in a line for 2 hours just to get into the actual auditorium itself. Talking with other Star Wars fans, socializing before social media was a big thing. It was just honestly, other than, at one point me thinking that Greg might have been murdered at some point. One of my favorite movie experiences of my life. I remember every moment of that night, and as a teenager. It was just such a thrill, and the ability to be able to go with Johnny and Kieran and Jade, and probably not Zachary. If Zachary is gonna do WrestleMania, then he won't be allowed to do this. So hopefully it'll be one of the two anyway. But I know Jensen will want to be there, and just I love Star Wars. This is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Um, number two behind Empire. I cannot wait to go see this. And God, I so badly want the full size version of this poster. I don't know if we'll ever get it, but it looks badass. And if I had the extra money, I'd get one and mail it to Kieran. As I joked around earlier, I could see Kieran doing the Ric Flair elbow drops to the poster. Um, would not rule that out. We got to get moving here, though. The final topic for this show before we go take a 5-minute break and then do the first episode of Late Night with Fandom, Elimination Chamber, fellas. Really just going to focus on 3 matches for now: the women's, the men's, and Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Try to be brief. We can spend some more time later talking about this on the post show. But let's start with Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. How's this play out, Johnny?
Somebody's going to a hospital. No, I mean I've been around the bend a time or two with these two, and I am terrified. It's something crazy is going to happen. I'm probably going to squeal and think somebody is injured in a much more serious way than hopefully they end up. They're just going to beat the living piss out of each other for 15 to 20 minutes, and it's going to be great. It's going to be terrifying.
Sorry, I just want to address this comment. I like comments like this. It, much like Kenny's comment, it hits close to home. What do we got here? Sorry, it disappeared. Flick says, definitely full circle fun for me. My dad took me to see Star Wars in '77. I took him along with my kids to Revenge of the Sith. That's awesome, man. Those are the stories you want to hear. Experiences that are irreplaceable. Love that, Flicks. Yeah, for me, I hope it's wild and crazy and violent. And the problem is, I feel like the end is very predictable. I think we're talking about Kevin Owens really, really hurting Sami Zayn and then going on to take on Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Randy?
I think this is definitely going to be probably one of the most, by easily the most violent match of the night. Even though you have 2 Elimination Chamber matches, this is going to be one of those ones where it's going to be like just a straight up grudge match, essentially. I think you're correct that Owens is going to go over on this, and this is kind of how we'll lead into, I think, Sammy probably against Karrion Kross at WrestleMania or something like that, and then we get, or even Sammy with a potential heel turn at some point, but he'll be off TV for a little bit after this. Probably he's probably due for some time off. But I do like the idea of Orton and Owens going at it at WrestleMania. I do like that.
Shift gears to the women's elimination chamber match. I feel like, despite it being an elimination chamber match, I feel like the storyline here is probably Jade Cargill. Probably going to get involved in the match is my guess. I have no idea who wins this match, but I am 150% positive she's coming back to take out either Naomi or Bianca or both, because I think it's painfully clear it was one of them that did it.
Probably.
Another one of Triple H's not great booking that has been horribly predictable for a while.
I don't think that's so much the fault of his booking I think it's the fact that they realize that they bought the Narcissist 2.0, and unlike Lex, Jade can't wrestle. That's what I think. As for who's going over, I think it's, I don't want to say painfully obvious, but I mean it's one of two people. It's either Liv or it's Alexa. It's one of those two. Nobody else really has a kid. I mean, you could shock everyone and go with Roxanne. That's a possibility. I mean, you could even do Bailey, because Bailey and Rhea is a thing. It just, I don't know. I think it's Liv or it's Alexa. Those are the two that I would bet my money on. But really, all I can say with certainty is that it's not Bianca and it's not Naomi. That's the only thing I can say with certainty. And you're probably right. Jade will probably interfere and attack one or both of them. But generally, I don't care about that angle. I'd like to see Alexa go over. But I don't know. Liv kind of stands out there as sort of the obvious option because, unfortunately, as is the case with booking in the WWE for the last 20 years, nobody wins feuds. They just continue forever, or until you move on to the next person, and then you come back to it in 6 months or a year or some other time. So, yeah, it's anyone but Bianca or Naomi. And it's all in what kind of story Triple H wants to tell. Me, I'd say Roxanne. I think that's the best because it's a fresh matchup. She is fresh. She's talented. And it's a story that's never been told, which is something that can't be said for any of the other possibilities coming out of this.
Randy, you got to take.
I think, I kind of agree with you guys in the sense of Bianca and Naomi are probably going to not win this just because of Jade. So that'll probably happen. But ultimately, I would think my picks would be between either Roxanne Perez or Liv Morgan. But I would think I might lean towards Roxanne Perez a little bit more just because of the title change that happened on Raw. So that way, Liv has a belt, and so that there's no real need for her to be a two belts, and I don't think she's over to that point where she can be like Becky Lynch. So I think I do think it's probably gonna be Roxanne Perez because I like Johnny's right. It's something fresh. It's never been done, and Roxanne Perez is extremely talented and really does deserve to have a shot.
Yeah, I really like Roxanne. I think she's quite good. I thought that Liv tag team match there the other day or yesterday was incredible. I don't know if Liv gets enough credit for the work she's put in over the last year. That being said, I think we've seen Liv versus Rhea one too many times, and I think you can rule out all three: Bianca, Liv, and Naomi. I think it'll be one of the other three that get it, regardless of who. Um, Brings us on to the men's match, who, either, and I know he's not in the match, but we're either getting corporate Cody or corporate somebody else. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the winner of the match. I still say if I was betting money on this match, fellas, that I bet on John Cena winning. But bigger picture, I feel like they're really set up here to do the whole corporate punk thing. I know Johnny and I talked about it off air. It would be the big heel turn because I don't think they're turning Cena heel. I don't think they're going to turn Cody heel. Punk, there's no way anyone not named CM Punk or John Cena are winning this match. No offense to the other guys in it. It's just not happening. I really have no idea where they're going. Again, if I was placing money on it, I'm going Cena in this match. But I think in terms of the fallout of the SmackDown thing, the guy that makes the most sense to be the Rock's corporate champ is CM Punk. I'd like to get your guys' take on both, Johnny.
I think that
By the way,
Brock.
sorry, before you go, I'm not convinced that they're gonna do either of those things. By the way, just my prediction if they do.
I think Rock showing up fucked the dog. Um, in that, I think you had a great chance to do corporate Cody angle if you sort of recreate and change the WrestleMania 17 finish. You know, if Cody sells his soul to keep the belt at WrestleMania, I think that would be amazing storytelling and would allow you to come back to that match later on and get another big match from Big Match John. That is a title match, you know, maybe SummerSlam. He can get it. You can get the win there. But doing this now, it just, I think all of that is too predictable. And I don't think anybody's going corporate. I think this is Rock decided, I want to do something. So they just sort of picked out whatever random crap they could out of the reject barrel and threw it against the wall, and that's what stuck. There's no thought in this. There's no preparation in this. It's just Rock showing up and deciding I want to be the center of attention, which is the worst thing. Everything CM Punk complained about over 10 years ago is happening again, much worse. And I think that it's just, this is just a big old nothing burger. I think it plays out the same. I still think Cena goes over. I think at this point you almost have to go Logan Punk. You know, you're actually getting something out of this right now that makes sense. You can save.
I want to punch you right now, just so we're clear.
I think it's the
After all that
smart.
talk of Drew not getting his due, that's exactly what they'd be doing with Punk if they have him go up against Logan Paul at Mania.
Well,
So let's
let's be
fuck
honest.
both
For
guys.
which match is going to be most important outside of the wrestling bubble? It's who's wrestling Logan. That's the match John Q. Public is going to care about. You know,
I
that's
would
the
rather
match.
see AJ Styles in terms of in-ring quality match.
I don't disagree, but storyline tells us that's where you're going, and it's looking like you're going to get Finn and AJ, which I'm for because it's never happened before. So I think smart booking takes you that way because Punk and Logan is actually, it's new. It's, again, I like new. I like things I've never seen before in wrestling because they don't come around very often anymore. And this works. It allows you to play both edges of the angle. You know, Punk can come at Logan for being a part-timer celebrity, and Logan can come at Punk for leaving the business for 10 years. You know? Like, there's a lot of meat on that bone if they do it right. I think Punk is capable of having the type of match that properly plays to Logan's skills. And I think that would be beneficial for both of them. As crazy as it sounds, I think that's the smarter match where, you know, if you do Punk and Roman, it's not going to be able to get the focus it deserves. Where you can save that where there's zero question that it could main event a night of SummerSlam without question. You know, there's no debating that. And I think that's the smarter place for this. I've always said that. I've always said I think that's a better match to have at SummerSlam than at WrestleMania. Where it can be more of a focal point where you don't need, you know, where the titles aren't as important for any of the big four pay-per-views. It's SummerSlam. Because the Rumble, the title is still important because of the Rumble match itself. But SummerSlam is a clean slate. You can tell whatever story you want because it's sort of the, you know, the end of the first quarter of the wrestling season. And you can tell a story without a title in the main event and make it meaningful. But I think, again, without question, Cena wins this and then goes to Mania and, probably wins the belt there.
Excuse me while I throw up. I know you were going on at length about the Triple H's bad booking. For me, that's exactly what Punk and Logan Paul would be, is bad booking. Just my opinion, but Randy, your thoughts?
Well, I think Cena's going to win Elimination Chamber, go on to WrestleMania. Whether he wins the title or not, I don't know, just because depending on Cody's answer to The Rock, that's where that's going to play. I don't hate the idea of Logan Paul versus CM Punk, but not at WrestleMania. I think you would have to have Paul pretty much just keep needling Punk for a few months and start pissing him off to the point of where Punk finally takes notice of him and says, okay, that's it. I'm done with your bullshit. Let's have it out. That can be something for SummerSlam, but I don't see that as WrestleMania. That's not something that I'd want to see at WrestleMania. I'd want to see something a lot bigger than that. I'm definitely fine with Punk versus Roman at WrestleMania. But ultimately, it's going to be interesting just because I'm curious to see if they actually are willing to pull the trigger on Cody at Elimination Chamber, where he does kind of agree, I wouldn't say fully sell his soul, but we start to see the process of it all, and then Cody just kind of finally losing it and going full corporate Cody after he loses the belt at WrestleMania to Cena. I mean, that's kind of where I would see things going. But we'll just have to see how it plays out. For now, I think the only thing I know for sure is Cena winning at the Elimination Chamber, and that's really about it.
Yeah, I think even if Punk gets into that main event with Cena and Cody, that Cena's winning the Elimination Chamber. Like, I think if you want a safe bet to place this weekend, watch. Now people are gonna go place the bet and be like, "Oh my God, he didn't win! You guys are fucking assholes." We're not saying bet the house, but you want to bet a few bucks and win even less, then John Cena is, without a shadow of a doubt, the safe play this weekend at Elimination Chamber. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for Fandomnation Live tonight, episode 2, in the books. Thank you to everybody who came out tonight and participated. Like we've been promising all episode long, if you're here in the live chat, I am providing the link to the Patreon show, which will get going in about 5 to 10 minutes time. We're talking about a storyline that Jamie Lee Curtis squashed for Halloween Ends, the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Fuck Moxley and everything that's going on there. We'll talk about that. The Punisher, he's got some more content coming. There's some Star Wars stuff to talk about. Tune in for our little after show then, where we can be a little more volatile with things that come out of our mouths. But there's the link in the chat. Feel free to join us, one time only, free tonight, and we'll see everybody there in about 5 or 10 minutes. This has been fun. Johnny, where can everybody find you at, bud?
Oh, here, there, and everywhere, but mostly Twitch.
Is that it?
Same.
Randy, how about you?
You can find me next at Giggity Giles. Also this week, from what I understand, we are going to be doing the Sports Brews. We'll be doing our Super Bowl wrap-up show. And after that, we'll probably take a bit of a hiatus before March Madness starts. But yeah, if you're interested in listening to a bunch of guys just talk shit, get drunk, and do dumb shit, go Sports and Brew in the Googles, and you'll find us.
Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up with all of our content. It was a fun episode, fun little after show coming up. there was so much news to cover this week. Hopefully next week's a little slower. Check us out on social media, all that good stuff. And again, the link is in the comment section right now for Late Night with Fandom, coming up in about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Randy. Thanks for Matt for coming out. We'll see you all again soon.